Hey guys, my name's Alyssa Paradise, and my value proposition is that abortion is immoral. This is for my logic and argumentation class. Let's see. Some key terms I defined were medical abortion, which, according to the World Health Organization, is a multi-step process involving two medications and/or multiple doses of one medication. Surgical abortion, let's see, according to the World Health Organization, describes the process of surgical abortion is called dilation and evacuation. According to the National Library of Medicine, surgical abortion is a procedure that ends an undesired pregnancy by removing the fetus and placenta from the mother's womb or uterus. And then, according to the World Health Organization, pregnancy is the term used to describe the period in which a fetus develops inside a woman's womb or uterus, usually lasts about 40 weeks or just over 9 months. And conception, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, describes the process of becoming pregnant involving fertilization or implantation or both. It's also described as an embryo or fetus, or the capacity, function, or process of forming or understanding ideas or abstractions or their symbols. A categorical imperative, according to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Immanuel Kant describes a categorical imperative stating that an unconditional moral law applying to all rational beings and independent of all personal desires and motives exist. Teleological ethics is an ethical approach that is results-oriented and would focus on the good or bad consequences of an action or a decision as described in our text, argumentation, and debate. Also, deontological ethics, as described in our text, is an ethical approach that is process or act-oriented and is based on the notion that actions have moral value independent of their consequences. My constructive is that abortion is immoral and that it does not protect human life. It is harmful to the women who undergo it. It is immoral for physicians to end human life via abortion, and it violates multiple moral and ethical perspectives, including the categorical imperative, deontology, and deontology. The hierarchy of these criteria are in the order listed because of the real and measurable negative effects and destruction of life that abortion carries out, and the moral and ethical theories that abortion violates are considered next in the list of hierarchy as they offer guidelines that individuals ought to follow. Multiple moral perspectives will be evaluated in that none of the ones discussed support a reality in which abortion is moral or justifiable. My hierarchy is number one, abortion does not protect human life but destroys it. Two, abortion is harmful to women who undergo it. Three, it is immoral for physicians to carry out abortion. And lastly, abortion violates multiple moral philosophies. My first criteria is that abortion does not protect human life but destroys it. My grounds for this is that it is always seriously wrong to take a human life. Developing fetuses are in fact human. They contain all the genetic information needed to develop into an adult human. This genetic information is given to them at conception when the male sperm and female egg combine. According chromosome is a structure housing DNA in a cell. Chromosomes are structurally quite sophisticated, containing elements necessary for processes such as replication and segregation. Each species has a certain set of chromosomes with respect to number and organization. For example, humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, 22 pairs of numbered chromosomes called autosomes, 1 through 22, and one pair of sex chromosomes, X and Y. Each parent contributes one chromosome of each pair to an offspring. That's quoted from Eric D. Green. He's a medical doctor. According to the National Library of Medicine, surgical abortion is a procedure that ends an undesired pregnancy by removing the fetus and placenta from the mother's womb or uterus. My warrant is regardless of whether or not a pregnancy is wanted, the pregnancy developing is one where the mother is growing an offspring that is within the same species and contains half of her DNA. By carrying out an abortion, the fetus's life is being ended, therefore human life is being intentionally destroyed. We see with the evidence of genetic information being specific to species and more specific to individuals and parentage that developing pregnancies house developing humans, and therefore by ending such pregnancies, human life is being murdered. My second criteria is that abortion is harmful to the women who undergo it. My grounds for this is that, according to the rights, reasons, constitutional conflict, and the spread of woman protective anti abortion argument, during Roe versus Wade, case affidavits were cited from post abortive women where women stated an abortion had caused them psychological disorders, suicidal ideations, and physical complications, and were often the result of coercion by relatives, sexual partners, or circumstances. Evidence in this trial was presented and recorded which stated that abortion had extensive negative effects on the women who underwent the abortions and had significant regrets about the procedures. My warrant for this is that abortion is often advocated as a woman's choice, but often it is overlooked about the effects abortion has on the women who either willingly undergo it or are pressured into taking such measures. Regardless of the choice being granted or an option available to them, the evidence suggests that abortion affects them negatively and impairs them psychologically and emotionally following the abortion. My third criteria, it is immoral for physicians to carry out abortions. My grounds are that physicians are morally obligated to protect human life and to advocate for the preservation of life. According to the Hippocratic Oath, published by the British Medical Journal, the Hippocratic Oath in its origin contained the words, I will follow that system of regimen which, according to my ability and judgment, I consider for the benefit of my patients, and abstain from whatever is deleterious and mischievous. I will give no deadly medicine to anyone if asked, or suggest any such counsel, and in like manner I will not give to a woman a pessary to produce abortion. Being granted the extensive training in medical school and knowledge of how the body works, and how to administer and do procedures that alter the natural course of events which within the human body, physicians should not use that knowledge and training given to them to carry out negative effects on the human body, including death. The Hippocratic Oath states in its essence that doctors do no harm. Providing and carrying out abortions is contradictory to that oath and violates the very power and trust put into them. My backing for this is that any lay person will not have the means, knowledge, training, or disposition to carry out the destructive measures taken to produce an abortion. Yet doctors are abusing their power and knowledge to destroy human life when carrying out abortions. My last criteria is that abortion violates multiple moral philosophies such as the categorical imperative, deontological approach, and teleological approach. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, philosopher Immanuel Kant describes a categorical imperative stating that an unconditional moral law applying to all rational beings and independent of all personal desires and motives exist. Rational beings, including those with the ability to be rational, not whether or not they are yet rational, a human would be included in this thinking. It violates the categorical imperative to murder a rational being, regardless of the motive or personal desires of the doer. In our text, argumentation and debate outlined other ethical and moral philosophies such as consequentialism or teleological ethics, which judge that the consequence of one's conduct are the ultimate basis for any judgment about the rightness of conduct. Through the lens of this type of ethics, the consequence being created by abortion is ultimately the intentional end of life. No consequence is greater or more significant than that ultimate end when thinking about abortion. And then deontology or duty ethics is also described in our text as an ethical approach that is process or act oriented and is based on the notion that actions have moral value independent of their consequences. Abortion through this lens is the act of abortion, which would measure the actual act of aborting the fetus and the act of destroying human life. It would look at the pain inflicted on the fetus and the life ended. My warrant for this is that through the evidence we see that a wide degree of varying ethical and moral philosophies do not justify or support abortion. The ultimate difference in the last two moral approaches of consequentialism or duty ethics is murdered or to murder, neither of which are justifiable, whereas the categorical imperative established that rational beings all have rights to universal laws and that those rights should neither be stripped nor violated for any other person's motives or desire. Death or killing are neither justified by any person's murder nor personal desires. Therefore, abortion is immoral through the lens discussed. My closing remarks are through the many different criteria established here, we saw that abortion ultimately ends human life and that human life extends to all which to its foundational genes and composition is human. That whether through the lens of a categorical imperative, ethics, duty, or consequentialism, abortion is neither justified or morally acceptable in action, consequence, or personal motive. Even though the motive of women are protective, evidence supports that women are also negatively affected as a consequence of abortion. And lastly, that those carrying out the procedures of surgical abortion or giving medications for medical abortions are in direct violation of the power and knowledge entrusted to them. I urge you to value human life and to put any personal desires or motivating any other response aside. Throughout history, different groups of people have been devalued and had their agency taken away. Murder and heinous acts have been taken against such groups. All humans are deserving of universal rights simply because they are human and rational beings. Do not be coerced by the lack of value subjected to the lives of the unborn. These are my references.